See and hear you guys. Hello, everybody. Hello. Bear with us, my friends. If there's a little bit of latency, we're getting a little bit of network connectivity issues on our end. I apologize for starting with that. But, guys, you are here for Highlight Heroes, featuring the one, the only Basics of the Game.
Hi.
It's good to have you, man. As always, Parker's here, of course. I'm pointing in the right direction. That's correct. Yes, I did it right.
I don't know.
Sure, probably. Hey, so before we get into all the goodness, we're going to do a few things. The first of which is, Jeremiah, tell folks where they can find you. Where are you at?
Well, I'm Basics of the Game on TikTok and here on Twitch. I have a website, jeremiahmccoy.com. And I'm Tech Noir on Twitter. It's a long story on that handle, but
oh man, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And now we're going to go through a few quick announcements between Parker and I. Parker, you want to start us off?
Sure. So thank you for getting to the first program of the week. Our next one will be Off the Rails Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, February 5th. Then we're doing Conundrum Company, same Conundrum time, same Conundrum place, February 6th at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then we have February's Roundtable episode on February 7th, where Sarah and a group of wonderful creators will be playing a DM-less game. So that should be interesting in itself. And that's our schedule for the week. If you're looking for our weekly schedule, you can check out our Instagram account.
Thank you, Parker. Now, there's just a few quick ones. We try to keep the announcements short on this one, but there is something that I really want to draw everyone's attention to. Guys, you know what we don't get to do on Highlight Heroes a lot? Giveaways. But today, you have a chance to hang out with us to get a giveaway. That's right, you know our friends at Gooey Cube. If you don't, you need to go check out their Kickstarter or their product page. Links are available in the chat right now. Guys, they make some really good supplemental materials for game masters for D&D. It's all D&D compatible. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. They've got an amazing world called Zaith. Parker's played in it. I've played in it. Sean and Sarah, we've really enjoy this product. We highly recommend it if you don't have time to homebrew yourself. Very creative folks, amazing art assets. Anyway, they partnered with us to do a giveaway this week during this show. If you put in #GUI, you're going to get yourself entered into a raffle that we're going to draw at the very end of this show. And that raffle is for one digital copy of the Cyclopedia Zyathica, which gives you all of the world building information for that world.
Huge.
That's a lot, right?
Huge.
So please get in on it. Not only that, my friends, their Kickstarter is actually still open. Now they've already blown all of their stretch goals out of the way, but there's still a few extra things that you can unlock. And if you go over there, check it out. It's like $25 for $100 worth of stretch goals. Not only that, if you email them, and I'll drop the link later at the end, if you email them that you're friends of the inn, they're going to give you 10% off on top of all of that. So please go check out Gooey Cube. They are amazing, great folks. Secondly, we just want to draw your attention to this month's charity. We are kicking that charity off as of today. It's a brand new one because it's the first day of the month, believe it or not. We, of course, it's February, it's Black History Month, which is really important. We are asking folks to direct their attention towards the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. The ACLU has been at the center of nearly every major civil liberties battle in the U.S. for over 100 years. This vital work depends on the support to ACLU members in all 50 states and beyond. If you click on that donate button or the link available in chat, it's going to take you straight to their donation page. Please. This is a charity that is worthy year-round of your support, obviously, but this month we're drawing attention to it just in particular. Please consider donating, if not on our behalf, on behalf of somebody who you are close to, or, we would really love to see folks donate to the ACLU. So, with that, I think we're ready to get into the show proper, right? Okay. And the show always begins with us showing off our masterpieces that we're going to be working on today. Parker, what are you doing? What do you got?
So as many of you that have watched the show before know, I like to do a little bit differently weird things. So this is my owl bear. I'll be painting him like a Valentine's Day teddy bear. That's
adorable.
So, yeah.
That's so cute.
I love it.
Quick hello to all of the raiders coming from Red Queen Hales. Hi, friends! Good to see you guys! Amazing D&D content creator over there raiding in. We really appreciate it. I am going to be painting Go Figure Warhammer minis. Obviously, I'm too lazy to focus this properly. It's a big robot dude with an axe because I'm a 5-year-old child.
Okay.
Jeremiah, what have you got? What are you working on today, my guy?
I am working on some chainmail. I'm working on another chainmail dice bag. So,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
How long have you
working
been...
in copper, which is a whole different kettle of fish sometimes.
So how long have you been doing this?
What, chainmail?
Yeah.
Early 90s?
Early 90s. And copper, what's up with copper? What makes it so
So
complicated?
copper is softer than steel or some of the other metals that you could use. So it's easier to bend, but it also scratches. So you got to be very careful with it.
Oh.
So you'll end up with little scratches on the rings if you're not careful, which show up as extra shiny bits, but also are kind of a problem. But they're a little rougher. And then I have to coat it in something that keeps it from corroding when I'm done.
Well, we're not only learning things about you, we're learning things about crafting armor today, which is hugely amazing. So thank you. All
Yeah,
right.
don't make armor out of copper.
Just 'cause-
Do not.
I recommend aluminum.
Aluminum's better. Yeah.
It's light.
It's light. It's cheaper. Easier to maintain. Yeah, don't make armor out of copper. That's a bad life choice.
You will get covered in aluminum dust, though.
Yes.
It's a time.
I love how much I'm learning today.
I mean, if you're just looking for a suit of chainmail, you can spend about $100 and get some cheating chain.
Cheating chain, okay.
Cheating chain is micro mesh. They make it with a machine. It's kind of like, you ever seen a butcher's glove?
Yeah.
It's a sort of butcher's glove chain.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My God.
And
Well,
it weighs almost nothing.
you just... That's truly what I need with my bad back. All right. Okay, so let's get into the questions proper. Now that we've learned all about armor crafting, Parker, I believe you're up.
I am. Our very first question is pretty simple, but how did you get into D&D?
My mother, she played D&D with some of her college buddies. Basically, we had moved back to the Knoxville, Oak Ridge area, and a bunch of her buddies from college were in the area, and some of them were playing D&D. They got her into it, and she kept bringing home this box. And it was the basic box. So 1982?
Wow.
1981, 82, something like that. And it was sort of a magenta colored, had this great Errol Otis art on the cover. Loved it. And I could not stay up playing with it because, kid walks up and I'm like, and I was the appropriate age. So I was like, oh, yay, this is cool. It even says the age on the top. And my mom went here on my birthday and gave me my own, so I'd stop getting into hers.
Fair.
Oh, that's
she has
amazing.
since stopped playing, but that's when I started. I've been going ever since.
God, that's because your dad introduced you too, right, Parker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have my dad's first edition books.
I kind of love that D&D is a hobby that can be passed down from family member to family member. There's something romantic about that.
I am the one out of my 3 siblings that decided that I was going to do that.
I actually hired somebody because they played first edition once. So
I much prefer,
Put that on every question.
5e because the math in first edition is very, very hard.
it is.
You're like, if you can play first edition, I can definitely use you. It's perfect. Oh
Fair.
man. So you've been playing D&D for a long time, suffice it to say. What's your favorite class to play? Any edition, tell us your fave. Or a couple faves, if you can.
I think I've played all of them, and I have fun playing, to be fair. There is no such thing as a bad class in D&D.
Oh, that's good.
That said, I think my heart is always going to be with the wizard, which used to be called the magic user back in the day. But it's essentially a straight line through. They do the same thing all the way through.
Never changed.
Yeah, they get their power from reading books. I mean, what's not to love? I mean, as little nerdy me who spent a lot of time reading, that seemed really appealing. I mean, so yeah, that was the thing I latched onto, and I've always sort of had an extra special affection for wizards. So.
I love that answer.
Fair.
Oh,
It's really good. So, do you have a favorite race to play?
Not really. Like, it really depends on what I'm going for in the game. Like I just recently made a character for a game where it's a goblin. And it fit the theme of what everybody else was going with. I will say that more often than not, I have played humans. Not because of any particular mechanical reason or anything like that. I play them because they're ordinary. And I love the story of the ordinary person in an extraordinary circumstance.
That's fair.
To a certain extent, that is what the hobbits are in Lord of the Rings. They're ordinary people. They're just farmers. They're not adventurers. They're not, they're just ordinary people. And that's why you sort of follow them all the way through.
yeah. That's such a wow. That's a very deep answer.
Yeah.
It's really good. So then, you've said your favorite class, and you've said you've played them all. Given that information, what class is up next on your docket? Like, if you were dropped into a one shot or a game, you had any option for you. What class would you want to try next, or revisit next?
Revisit next. Okay, fair. Because I just got through making a goblin, so for game friends running. But I think I'd like to take a swing at joke intended at a barbarian.
I love barbarians.
The wild magic barbarian seems really cool to me. If not that, maybe go for a bard, but yeah, I'm currently playing a druid. Just made a wizard play a fighter. So yeah, maybe a barbarian, change of pace if you could.
So that raises a question for me. How many games are you currently in? How much you playing?
I'm running one. My secondary game kind of fell apart, and I haven't replaced it yet. And I'm playing in a monthly game on a different stream. And I play in 2 games run by another. And I play Mage also every other Sunday. So that's it right now.
That's a lot of TTRPG. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I'll probably start up another one, but I don't know when or how. I kind of want to do something that's not D&D-ish. Mm-hmm. I want to run like a maybe The Expanse or Cyberpunk Red or something science fiction-y.
Nice. I just picked up Shadowrun. They've had a new rule set drop recently.
Yeah, the rule book is a kind of a mess.
It's a lot.
I love some of their ideas for the rules changes. They don't explain them well.
Interesting. That's valid. I could see that, yeah.
Like, the idea of their edge system is sort of much more interactive. And a bit like Fate.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah. And Fate Core is any of the Fate ones are very, like, kind of loosey-goosey, which pro cons.
Instead of calculate all of these pluses and minuses, you're just basically getting edge, and then you're spinning the edge to do cool things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of neat, but the explanation in the book is terrible.
That's valid. Okay. All right. I think we're on... Sorry.
Yeah. So you're good. So our next question is usually, what race are you going to play next? And then also, just because you've seen so many editions of D&D, I'm curious what race you've seen evolve the most recently. Ooh. And find it the most interesting to watch, like how far it's come, because I'm just interested in that answer.
That's a good question.
What I think the one I'm interested in playing next, beyond the one I've already made, I kind of want to play a Goliath.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to play a Goliath in a non-standard Goliath mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I said I want to play a barbarian. I don't want to play a Goliath barbarian. I want to play a Goliath like wizard or something.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
But I think the ones that have evolved the most. Ooh, that's a tough question.
Sorry, I threw that in.
Yeah, that's a good one though. So the way they handled races over the editions changed so much, and not just like the most recent announcement. Like the recent announcement was huge, but I mean, just when in first edition and the box sets, you could play, like an elf or dwarf or what have you, but it would limit your options. Like in the box sets, elf and dwarf were classes / race. Like you didn't have a dwarven fighter; you were a dwarf, or an elf. And their limiting factor on all of the cool they could do was you couldn't go above a certain level.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In first edition. And humans could just keep going.
Interesting.
And so a lot of different things have changed. I think the ones that have changed the most are the so-called monstrous races. The half-orcs, mm-hmm. the kobolds as a playable race, goblins, so on. They have moved past we need to give them negatives because we need to explain why they haven't conquered the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, why haven't these guys won? Well, maybe they just were, the same reason one human kingdom hasn't conquered the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's just move past that. So I think the monstrous races have changed the most over the editions. Although the earliest iterations of Tiefling are unrecognizable to the Tieflings today. I will say that.
Really? What's the big difference there?
So the earliest earliest version of Tieflings appeared in around Planescape era, so second edition, and they were more like interdimensional mutants.
Interesting. Really?
Like there wasn't a consistent appearance to them.
And they weren't connected to the Abyss or whatever, the Nine Hells. They were...
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they actually introduced a lore explanation for why that was. Like, there was a series of novels that explained why it changed. And it basically boiled down to the Tieflings in the Forgotten Realms made a deal with Asmodeus. And as part of that deal, he claimed them as his own. So they all became infernal and all became sort of devilish.
Interesting. God. I love when there's like lore elements like that explain mechanical changes. That's always fun. Or not even mechanical, but just structure.
Forgotten Realms is like that, though. Like, every so often, it's like, we've got a major rules change. Let's explain it in...
Retcon through a paragraph of lore.
No. We'll have a disaster. That'll explain everything.
Yes. Like the Dragonborn, right? Okay. So, now you said there's no terrible classes, but personally speaking, which is your least favorite class to play?
That's very circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the campaign. I think that in some regards, maybe the monk, but I've had a lot of fun playing a monk, so I can't say for sure. It's either the monk or the bard. This is not to say I don't like them,
Right.
and that I wouldn't play them, but I want some of the subclasses to be cooler on their monk. I want the Kinsai monk to be a little cooler.
Yeah, they kind of meh it. I get that.
I mean, they're still effective. You still have fun with them. There's still ways to make it interesting, but I kind of wish that some of their things. I also wish they weren't quite so Asian coded, I guess. Like, it feels a little weird playing them, knowing that really this is the picture of cultural appropriation. No, really. So there is that. But and bards. Bards can be great if you're playing in a social campaign and you want to be the most important person at the table. I don't always want to be the most important person at the table.
So there's like a weight of responsibility put there a little bit, or...
Yeah. Sometimes I just don't want to be that guy.
You feel like you have to talk.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Part of that is also I am very aware I'm loud and forceful, and I have walked over people without meaning to, and I feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I find an excuse to not be that guy. That makes sense.
That's valid, yeah. I think there's always, like, self-consciousness, like, you bring in your own baggage to the tabletop, so to speak. Not to say baggage, you know what I mean, though, but, like...
Yeah. It's just, I spend a lot of time trying to I'm worried about, is this fun for the other people at the table? So.
That is the signs of a good D&D player, though.
Mm-hmm.
Always look for that. Yeah.
So, in the same vein, is there a race that you just aren't interested in playing or didn't have a lot of fun with, or think that it needs to be reevaluated before you feel comfortable playing it?
I don't like Dragonborn. I have never liked Dragonborn. I know people love them, and, more power to them, really. Have fun with it. I've never liked them. And I can't put a solid pin on why. Like, it's not like there's it's not like they're problematic in any way or anything. They just a little too try hard, I guess.
They are very enthusiastic.
I mean, I have in fact played one, but yeah, the idea is that it gives you the feel of playing a dragon, but you're never actually going to be playing a dragon. So it's a little disappointing in that regard. And if you were playing a dragon, it wouldn't fit in with everybody else. So, yeah. Also, it's just a little too weird, a little too alien. Fourth edition had another one that I actually had similar feelings on for different reasons. The Deva.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, you're playing an angel. And I'm like, I don't want angels to be, relatable.
Right. They need to be they need to be out there and strange.
Yeah.
That's fair. So it was very different to the ASMR, though. Like, do you feel like they did a better job this kind of defining with the ASMR? Or is it a similar perspective there?
The ASMR, in the context that they have presented them in 5th edition in particular, is that they are not, in fact, just like fallen angels. They're people touched by angelic power, kind of like a tiefling is, tied to, infernal powers. Okay, that's fine.
You get behind that.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Like, sorcerers, the sorcerer bloodlines are kind of that same theme. So, yeah, sure. Cool.
Right on. Well, we're heading away from the D&D question. We're getting near to the end of our questions. So, chat, be ready to highlight your questions because we're going to get to answering them after our next 2 questions. And don't forget #GUI to get yourself in the entry for the raffle at the end of the session, okay? But second to last question. You've got this presence in social media, on TikTok, on Twitter, here on Twitch. How did you get into content creation? What's your origin story for that?
I remember when podcasting started back in 2005, and I became enthusiastic about it. I was like, that's cool. That seems neat. And then there were like people who I had met who made podcasts, and I was like, oh, I can do that too. And the first one I made was a podcast called Radio Free EOS. It is not online anymore, to be fair. But Radio Free EOS was an in-character new sort of renegade news from a alien world called EOS, which was the setting for a role-playing game called Dawning Star. A friend of mine had written it, and I thought it was a really cool setting. And I decided to just, all right, let's make this sort of Edward R. Murrow meets pirate radio.
That's amazing.
News thing. And I invented a persona for it named Pathfinder, and he would give little news stories. And I presented them in my mind. I was thinking people will use these as adventure hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just... there was a raid on this farmstead by, parties unknown. They're still looking for their kid, and just leave it at that as an adventure hook.
Yeah.
And I did about 10 episodes of that. And actually, some of the stuff I came up with, they put into supplemental material for the game because they were like, you should keep doing that. But I had to move, and things going on, so that petered out. And then I started up again where I was doing just sort of a interview and review show where I would review role-playing games, and I went to Gen Con and interviewed a bunch of people.
Nice.
It was fun. It was neat. And that was where the Basics of the Game comes from. So that was the name of the podcast.
Oh, okay. So there's the origin of the Basics of the Game.
Right. And then that fell to the wayside when I got laid off and had to change things up for a while. And I've since been, helping with podcasting, the Tome Show, and I've done YouTube stuff, a lot of YouTube stuff talking about D&D stuff and reviewing role-playing games. And then I saw this TikTok thing popping up on Twitter. And I was like, huh. That's cool. And some of the people I'd followed for other reasons, like Momo O'Brien, Azrai, I followed for LARP content. Because I was a LARPer for, 2.5 decades. So I was like, okay, they're LARPing. And they started, posting stuff up, and I was like, huh. Okay. All right, yeah. Let's go check that out. And I downloaded TikTok, and I started playing with it, and I was like, all right. And I saw lots and lots of stories from people who are much younger than me complaining about all of the gatekeepers they kept running into, which sounded like people who looked and sounded like me. And I was like, I need to be the opposite of that. So I saw that, and I saw that there was a lot of people talking about bards, but nobody talking about wizards. So I started making some funny little wizard vids, and then I started making videos about, no, we actually, all of us old guys who have been playing forever are glad you're all here. Don't let the gatekeepers keep you out.
That's such a positive message.
That's the story.
Thank you for recognizing that and stepping in, and being that welcoming individual. You know what I mean? It's kind of.
I don't like bullies.
Big mood.
It's really important. And it is. This is a game for everyone, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Parker, I think you're up, boss.
I think the last question is mine. What is your biggest hobby outside of D&D and TTRPGs?
Well, I've been a LARPer for 25 years. So that probably, a lot of my current friend group I met through LARPing. I've been to people's weddings and birthdays and baptisms and such of their kids. I've seen their kids go on to college in the course of LARPing, so that's a little weird. It's a huge part of my life. Before that, it was going to science fiction conventions. There's a term that some of you probably have never heard called a smoth.
Don't know what that is.
Don't.
So smoth means secret masters of fandom. It was a joking term that was coined years and years ago, but a bunch of the people who run conventions use that term because it was funny and thought they ran with it. My mom is a smoth. So I literally grew up going to conventions. So
it's just
also a big part.
A part of what you've done forever.
Yeah, it's like going to a family reunion.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Well, with that, I think it's Discord, it's Twitch. Jeez, I got there. Twitch chat question time. I'm still running on half a brain cell. And so we've got some good questions in here. The first one is from the Auburn Alchemist. What a cool person that sounds like. And Auburn Alchemist asks, what has it been like watching table culture shift over the years? And what is your favorite way to set expectations at a tabletop?
I think my favorite thing that I've noticed over the years that's changed is it has moved away from the adversarial relationship. Gary Gygax, bless his soul, was a big advocate of the sort of adversarial DM. The DMs, the original DMG, it said, don't show this to players.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Players shouldn't be reading this. This is for DMs. It wasn't so much that they were there to, beat down players, but it was very much an adversarial relationship. Mm-hmm. And over the years, that went away. And that's a good movement to move away from, honestly. It should be cooperating to, make people have fun. Yeah. Part of that has been introducing things like X cards and having a conversation at the beginning of what you are comfortable with and what you're not. Whatever form of that conversation you take. And that has entered my my usage going forward. It's a little I mean, it might be a little different with the folks I've been playing with, 20 some odd years, because
You know each other.
we know each other. But if I'm at a table with people I don't know or I haven't played with in a while, first session, first conversation, what are you comfortable with? What are you not?
Mm-hmm.
And that is an extension of that change from being adversarial to cooperative.
That's such an incredible perspective to even, I perceive personally like D&D as a collaborative thing. Like the DM is playing alongside the players, not against them. Like that's always how I've approached the tabletop. But to think about that's not always the case still. But to think about the way that the game has shifted from that point as well is very fascinating to me.
Well, I mean, Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read the original Tomb of Horrors. It was intended that Gygax would do this at Gen Con. He'd show up and he'd run it. And there'd be people lined up with the player characters. First level player characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd come up to the table. They'd play until a character died, and the next guy would come up.
And it was just a meat grinder, essentially.
It was. It was intended to be that. This was not what his normal at-home campaign was like. That was a little different. But yeah, some of the bigger modules from back in the day were essentially, gladiatorial arenas for your player characters.
Crazy. So then moving on, Just a Singing Geek asks, hi Liz, what is your favorite moment in a game that resulted from a critical success and or failure?
Favorite moment.
Big question.
Critical... Yeah, long history there. I think one of my favorites was there was a point where I was running an adventure where PCs were chasing a vampire on a train. It was set in Eberron. It was back in 3rd edition days.
Nice.
And they're chasing this this vampire, and one of them decided to grab hold of him, and she succeeded, and it was like a critical success. Like she rolled a 20 on the die, and I wanted to give her the success, so she stopped him. The problem was the adventure was written in such a manner that stopping him was maybe not a good idea.
Oh no.
Because he was trying to get away, and they would track him down later in his lair and actually be able to kill him. They're fighting something that they cannot kill in an enclosed space who is more powerful than them. And they had a life-draining slam back then.
Interesting.
So he proceeds to beat down their barbarian. Just thwap, 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 thwap. And the rest of the PCs catch up to jump him, but they're coming at him one at a time. Because, they were chasing and
different speeds.
Yeah. So he drops the barbarian, turns and just proceeds to drop everybody as they keep running up.
Oh my god!
And it made for a really dramatic scene. Like it wasn't that I was beating down the PCs that was interesting. What was interesting was they were forced into the position of making a choice. Of we need to stop. We can't, because our friend is lying at his feet and he's about to kill her. And it was the players I was playing with were really into the moment. And it felt very dramatic. And yeah, I mean that one sticks out in my head.
That's really neat to see. That's a critical success that turned into something that is kind of not a failure, but one of those like negative impact things as well, because they proceeded to chase something that was not necessarily viable.
Yeah, the adventure was maybe poorly written. I was running a published adventure at the time, and I was like, yeah, the chase scene on a train is really iconic and dramatic, and there's like halflings flying over the thing on pterodactyls shooting crossbows at the people on the top of the train.
Eberron.
Cool, yeah, very Eberron. And the vampire was sort of supposed to get away, and they just kept succeeding, and finally she caught him. And I was like, okay. The designer of this adventure did not see this as a possibility.
Oh my god, I love
that
so much. Oh. So then, let's see. I've got a question now from Methalador, asking if you could cast Find Familiar. This is a very important question, especially, you're the wizard. If you could cast Find Familiar in real life, what would your familiar be?
A crow.
Yeah?
Yeah. I love crows.
Is it just an aesthetic thing? Like, what, how come?
They're smart birds, for one thing. They are very smart. I've seen the video of them giving them a challenge where the food in the water and they can't reach it with their beak, so they go and pick up objects and drop it into the water to raise the level of the water to get to the food.
That's crazy.
I know humans who wouldn't get that.
Yeah.
I know humans who would not have figured that trick out.
That's true.
And so I mean they're very smart. And there was a time in my life when I worked security. I was a big, intimidating looking guy. Security was a viable option for me. Every time I showed up to a post, a bunch of ravens would show up, and it used to spook the hell out of my supervisors. So like, what is it about you? Nobody.
I don't know. Birds like me.
Yeah.
Birds like me.
But yeah, I've always loved crows. They are beautiful birds, and they're so clever. So yeah, easy
win. That's awesome. So then, Auburn Alchemist, this is a second question from them. Has there been a moment or character in game that has impacted you significantly enough to carry with you into the real world?
Yes. Yeah. I played in a LARP, which is kind of like, similar dynamic as a tabletop. I played a sort of swashbuckling character that I discovered that I had real world abilities I didn't know I had, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm not the greatest LARP combatant in the world, but I'm decent. But I am apparently able to talk, and I didn't really realize the power of that until I played this character.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can do things with my cadence, with my voice, that allows me to capture attention if I need to. And I really didn't think about it until I started playing a character whose entire sort of way of presenting themselves was about trying to convince people to stop and listen. And he was kind of a mysterious bard-like figure. And so, yeah, it was weird to discover that I had that ability.
When you can
definitely carried over.
I've never thought of that, but you can see that like in your TikToks when you articulate yourself. Like there is a flow, there is a feeling of narrative when you speak. Like it's very impressive.
Yeah, I definitely, around about the same time, I also learned. I tried out for some radio theater stuff. And so I was learning this about myself while practicing it in voice acting. So I began to realize what was going on.
That's awesome.
That makes sense.
That's really cool. Oh, that's such a good answer. Well, Black Dragon Queen asks, what is your favorite homebrew rule that you have played with at a table as both a DM and a player?
Actually, this isn't my homebrew. A friend of mine came up with a homebrew that I like. It's called Giving Ground. Once a combat, you can spend a reaction to give ground and roll a d6 and subtract the damage from a successful hit. But you have to move back 5 feet.
Fascinating. Okay.
That's neat. That's a neat idea. I'm going to steal that.
Okay, so it triggers like on a hit. You can use your reaction to give ground, and then you roll that d6 and move back 5 feet and subtract the d6.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
It makes lower level fights much more survivable. And it also sort of plays into the narrative of a sword fight.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing the sword fight, you go in and sometimes you have to back up real quick so you don't take that hit.
Yeah, it's like a back and forth, and there's more movement on the field because of that. Interesting. Yeah. Does it count against your total movement when you do that, or is it just like free 5 feet?
It's a free 5 feet,
like forced
and
movement
you can't
almost.
do it if you don't have 5 feet to move. So
if you're pressed against a wall, so you can also like work. That's really interesting. Holds a whole other dynamic to the game. That one rule. Sorry.
Yep.
DM hat goes on, and I go, ooh, what are the implications of this?
Yeah, it just means that there's more interaction of back and forth, and there is fights at lower levels are a little more survivable. It's a once a fight thing.
Yeah.
So you're not doing it at more than so much that it off balances anything.
Interesting. That's really cool. And of course, enemies can do it as well, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. We've got a couple of questions from Just a Singing Geek. Wow, we got a whole list of them here. Is there a system outside of D&D that you particularly enjoy? And if not, is there a system you would like to try out in the future?
I've always enjoyed Fate ever since Spirit of the Century. I've been doing that one for years, and I love it. I'm particularly fond of Age, which is Adventure Game Engine by Green Ronin.
Interesting.
It is. It started as Dragon Age, right? So they had the Dragon Age tabletop role-playing game, and they came up with a game system all their own to do it. They didn't want to do it in D&D at the time, so they came up with their own. And then it became clear this was actually a decent game system in and of itself. So they made a Fantasy Age, which was the Dragon Age game system with all the Dragon Age parts sort of shaved off. If you remember, Will Wheaton did a thing a few years ago called Titan's Grave on tabletop.
I haven't seen that one, but I'm going to have to look it up.
It had like Laura Bailey and Hank Green. Like it was a pretty all-star cast too. But the game system they were using was fantasy.
Interesting.
And then it has since gotten Blue Rose has been ported over to it. And they have a Modern Age, which is what The Expanse is based off of.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the comic Lazarus by Greg Rucka.
I've not.
They did a role-playing game based off of it. So yeah, the Age system is one of my favorites. I want to play the one system I've wanted to play for years and I haven't had a chance to is Mutants and Masterminds. I've made like a half dozen characters for it, but when I got it, I was running a Champions game at the time, and I didn't want to convert. So
That makes sense. Oh man, so I love the history of the age system too. That sounds really interesting. I have to take a look at
yeah,
that.
it's really great. It has a very simple mechanic. You roll 3 dice.
Mm-hmm.
You're adding a skill attribute and going for a target number. Cool, great. But if you roll doubles on any of those dice, then you get a certain number of stunts from the stunt die. One die is off-colored. And you can spin those stunts to do cool stuff. Like if you get enough stunts, you can do things like rewrite the scene so that you remember to wire in something to the elevator so you can take over it anytime you want. Or you can use it to like pop off at a couple extra shots or something like that. Yeah, so it gives you lots of flexibility and interesting ways to use it.
It's like a critical success resource management sort of thing where you can stack it up and build it to spend. Yeah. That's really cool. That's awesome.
At the end of the day, there are no end of games that I really wish I had time to play. Star Trek. I really want to play the new Star Trek system so bad.
We are not spoiled or not deprived of TTRPG systems. That's for certain. So I've got another question here. If you had to choose a class for yourself in real life, you kind of already answered this question, but what would it be and why?
I'm gonna throw you off on this one. Probably a knowledge domain cleric.
Tell us more.
I love books. I adore books. I love knowing things. I love finding out new stuff. And when 5th edition came along and the knowledge domain, pretty cool. I mean, I still love wizards in game for having played Magic Users and everything all the way back. But yeah, if I were in the real world, knowledge domain cleric.
That's such a good answer.
I mean, my special ability is I can just know how to do stuff. Cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I think we have one more question, which is perfect, and then we can hop over to the giveaway and show what we've been working on. And that final question is from Vault. As a player, if you could play as any monster, which would you choose and why?
I love this question.
It's a good question.
As any monster?
Any monster.
Death Knight?
Okay. Tell us a little more.
Death Knights are interesting. They have, first off, they have this great sort of backstory behind each one that's individual to them. So they have the really cool story behind them, and that's always. But more to the point, you can't kill them. I mean, the Lich, you can go find their phylactery.
Mm-hmm.
The Death Knight dies when he wants to.
So you've just become immortal.
Yeah, he is the unkillable thing. I mean, if you want to play a recurring monster that they can never quite get rid of, Death Knight's definitely a good play.
It's less of a trap than you know what I mean? Because again, the Death Knight can choose to die, so it's not that they're caught in this; it's that they've elected to.
It's usually a curse, right? Yeah. So they have to satisfy the curse
to get out.
But sometimes they've cursed themselves out of despair or what have you. But yeah, I mean, okay, it's not like the PCs can just go, all right, we just have to find his one weak spot and kill him. No. You can stop him for a little bit. He'll come back.
So the Death Knight is just that X you can't get rid of?
Terminator? Sure.
I'm picturing a modern game where it's just this one character's person from their past they don't want to see. Just keeps coming up.
I mean, everybody goes Lich, and I get it. I mean, Liches are cool, and vampires are cool. They both have a sort of limited version of immortality. But if you want to be the unkillable undead thing, Death Knight's kind of
the win.
yeah, pretty much.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Death Knights, we have a GUI giveaway. That was a segue I did.
Yeah, it was. I was curious.
That was I am.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be impressed, all of you. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. So we have a GUI giveaway.
Hey, guys, you know what that means? It means it is time for us to draw our GUI giveaway winner. So what we're going to do here is drop in the code here in a second, and you all get a chance to win yourself a free digital copy of the Cyclopedia Sciathica, my friends. So here it goes. Hold on tight. Last call. Hashtag GUI. Last call. I'm looking at it. All right, here we go. Drawing now. And No Way wins! Hey! No Way!
No Way!
Wonderful member of the community. Glad to see you win there, No Way. So, guys, congratulations to No Way on that win. We're going to send you a PM in a little bit, No Way, to get you in contact so that you can claim that prize. But, you know, thank you all for being here. Jeremiah, thank you for sharing all of these things with us. Again, for the folks at home, where can they find you?
Basics of the Game on TikTok. I am Basics of the Game on Twitch when I stream. I have TheGovnar on Twitter, which is a whole thing. And JeremiahMcCoy.com is my website. I'm actually probably going to be posting some flash fiction there tonight. So maybe go check it out.
Folks, get over there. Make sure you follow. And you know, again, Jeremiah creates some amazing D&D content. Really appreciate him. Awesome member of the community.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been a delight. And, you know, last time we got to play, we need to get you back on the channel again for some more games.
Oh, yeah,
here. So
definitely.
Yes.
That was a blast. You made Rangers shine.
Do we want to show what we worked on?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Did, and I appreciated that.
Yes. Parker's a big fan of your work with the Ranger.
Yeah.
I love Rangers.
Me too.
They get too much hate. I'm
sorry.
Yeah,
they do. Sean.
Hey, Dan Dillon, one of the lead designers at Wizards of the Coast, agrees with you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Well, okay.
Important.
On that very important, very positive note, Parker, what have you been paying? How far did you get?
I finished him.
He's so cute. He's so Valentine.
Like really red and pink, which is hard. But then I did a little feather pattern that's in a heart on his chest.
Aww.
There you go.
I was wondering where the heart was going to be at.
He's very cute, but he will kill you.
He's like a Care Bear.
Yeah,
like,
but like an angry one.
Could you imagine a red and pink owl bear tearing through the forest towards you?
Now you can.
Now you
can imagine it.
I'd be so scared. I painted.
It's just a pink one that's covered itself in blood.
That's I'll put it in my Midgard game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll have a pink owlbear show up.
Yeah.
I'm sure my players will be confused.
Great. That's what I go for.
It's perfect.
Honestly.
No context as well. Don't let them. You know.
Sure.
Again, so I painted this. We'll post pictures. Focus is terrible, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an axe. He has no head because that's how I do things. Jeremiah, what you been working on? What you got for us?
So far, I've just got the initial chain that will turn into this, but it takes time.
Yeah.
It's longer than what we had here.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of I get the you know how you I assume I don't knit, but when I've seen people knitting, they do it as something to do with their hands as they're watching or doing something else. Is that similar with the chainmail?
Yeah, it's as long as I don't have to do anything that I have to interact with. If I can just sit there and watch, yeah, I can do this. Preferably something I don't have to pay attention to the screen though, because I do have to pay attention when I'm doing.
It's good for podcasts.
Like a listening thing.
Podcast or a show I've seen before but haven't seen in a while. I could do this while watching DS9, right?
Nice, yeah.
But I wouldn't want to do it while watching, WandaVision because I haven't seen it yet, and there's a bunch of little details in the background, so I wouldn't want to be doing that.
Well, and with that, my friends, I think we're closing out. Thank you to our fantastic mods, as always, for keeping our chat safe and wonderful. We really love you and appreciate you, and for helping run the giveaways.
Also, if you want your last chance to win the GUI giveaway, will be Roundtable this Sunday.
Yes, join us there. All right, guys, and again, thank you, Jeremiah, and we'll see everybody soon. Bye.
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 And we're out.